So next talk is from Sahana, and she's gonna talk about the Indian signal processing contribution and the beamform development for SKA. So let's thank, let's say, welcome our speaker. Yeah, Sahana. Thank you.
Thanks. Hello. Hello. Good morning, everyone. So today I'll be speaking about Indian signal processing contributions to development related to SKA. But before that, I would like to thank organizers and the coordinators for making this possible. So I would like to start with acknowledging the very valuable team which I've been interacting over the time, which is mainly Pulsar team and SKA team for beamforming, which included Gianni, Ricardo, MCCS team, GMRT team, and also I would like to acknowledge our RRI colleagues for making this work possible. So SKA, as we know, it will be deployed in 2 regions. SKA Mid will be deployed in the South Africa, which will constitute of 197 dish antennas spread over 100 kilometers. And SKA Low will be deployed in Western Australia, constituting of 1,31,072 dipoles spread over 65 kilometers. So this is a brief outline of my talk of our contribution, which is mainly with respect to the pulsar search and beamforming. So in the pulsar search related work for SKA, I'll be briefly speaking about the overview, FDAS algorithms, ARM processor inside FPGA, and about the candidate sifting. And with respect to beamforming, I'll be covering about what was the motivation behind taking the beamforming part of the development for SKA and outline of this work, and then the expected results and the results which we got out after we did the firmware and software development. So about the pulsar signals, it has been briefly covered by Prabhu, like huge amount of data which will, the beamform data which will come for the data processing, which will actually cover variety of DM range, pulse widths, duty cycle, periods range, and the search itself, the data is enormous to determine all these things about the pulsar. So yeah, SK low SK low will actually process the data coming out of 500 beams. SK mid will constitute of processing the data for 1,500 beams, and there are about 60 petabytes per day, which is kind of very huge. That actually compelled for the real-time processing, because offline processing cannot handle such high data rates per day. So yeah, so the pulsar search engine, very complex algorithms are involved with respect to the searches across different DMs, periods, and also implementation of the matched filter, basically algorithms, the set of algorithms which I'll be showing in the further slides. So the dispersion correction is actually being explored on GPU, and the periodicity and Doppler shift processing on the FPGA, which will, the beamform data will enter the server node, and after the processing, the candidate data is what is being output of the server nodes. So this is the main pulsar search processing workflow, and these are the different blocks of the pulsar search pipeline. And my work is mainly concentrated on the candidate sifting, which I've highlighted in the red block. There are other developments on the different blocks, like Raghutam gave the presentation of RFI mitigation. And there are other developments by different or contributions from different people for different blocks of this pulsar search. So this is the two layers of sifting, which is highlighted. One is the second level of sifting. So once we have the filter output plane from the match filter, the harmonics are summed, and then the raw list of candidates are produced, which will have millions of candidates segregated. And then there is a second level of sifting which is carried out. So the left side of the part would be carried out in the FPGA FDAS algorithm. The right side is which we explored running it on the processor on the FPGA. So yeah, the next few slides will be covering the booting up of ARM processor on FPGA for the second sifting, which I've highlighted over here. So that comes to the first part of my work. The second being beamforming, which I'll cover in the later slides. So booting up of the ARM processor in FPGA for real-time processing of the pulsar candidate sifting. So this is a brief block diagram of the board, FPGA board, which we are currently working on. So this is a board which we have it in RRI, and as highlighted over here, the DDR4 memory is what is being highlighted over there for processor system, and the serial console USB port, which will just like when you boot the system and everything appears on your system console, we have connected this console and connected to the Windows system, which will tell which will give out the output after all the kernel modules are loaded. So that is being highlighted in that part of Ethernet connection to the board. And then we have the serial connection, which is highlighted over there in the block diagram. So now this is the basic lab setup. So the Windows PC, through which after inserting the SD card, we will be monitoring the boot procedure and the system configurations. I'm actually using the Quartus 25.1.1 version to instantiate the processor system inside FPGA. And that is the board which we are currently working on to run the candidate sifting on the ARM processor in FPGA. So this is the configuration of the ARM processor inside FPGA. It has 4 cores and 4 CPU cores and 800 MIPS. So once we were able to boot the ARM processor on FPGA, I actually downloaded the Presto software on the processor. This is just a demonstration. Basically, we would be running the candidate sifting, but we wanted to check if the ARM processor functions the way we want it to. So we ran the Presto on ARM processor, and we gathered the GBDA array data to the processor, and Axel search was run on FPGA ARM processor. So this is a crab pulsar profile which we could plot after running Presto on the ARM processor on FPGA. So the real-time processing would look something like this, where the input to the FPGA, the de-dispersed data, first is gone through, the algorithms of the FDAS is run on it. Once we have that, then the big candidate list would be written onto the first BRAM shown above. These all are processing done on the FPGA. Once we have the million candidate data on the BRAM, then these data are read, and the second level sifting, the major sifting is carried out on the ARM processor. And once we have that, the results of the output data will be again put back into the BRAM, which will be read by the PCI interface connected. So this is the overall view of the work which is being carried out and explored on FPGA part. So the first part of Pulsar, our role in the Pulsar search algorithm, which we tried exploring on the ARM processor. It's a brief overview of that for the real-time processing. Next part is a beamforming development, which we did for both firmware and software-related developments. So beamforming is one of the main criteria which was recognized to be carried out at RRI. So this is a brief overview of SKA low arrangements. So each SKA low constitutes of 256 antennas in one station, and each tile, as you can see in the highlighted region, is 16 antennas, and 16 such tiles will make one station. So one station is broadly spread around 35 meters, and all these are processed. 16 antennas will be processed, given as input to something called as tile processing module, which will have mainly 2 FPGAs to process or do all the signal processing related and beamforming on the FPGA on tile processing module. That will produce the station beam. So brief overview of what was the motivation behind it. So long back, the key areas of development was finalized, and beamforming was identified as one of the key areas for the development at our side. So when we received the tile processing module, it had the capability of producing one beam. So it was desired to have 48 beams. That required the feature enhancement or new VHDL designs for existing tile processing module firmware. So this work has been carried out at RRI. So this is the board which we have, which is a tile processing module consisting of 2 FPGAs, and it has 16 dual ADCs, 14-bit precision, and capable of handling 800 mega samples per second. So this is a work which we carried out, highlighted in the right side. So one beam, what was the capability it had? So it required few software changes only to produce 8 beams, and then it required both VHDL code change and also software changes to produce 48 beams. So the work which I'm presenting right now is for the firmware and software changes which we did to produce 48 beams for the SKA project. So this is the firmware architecture where you can see the antenna inputs are passed to the ADCs, and we have a few configuration files which will actually tell what how much band to cover and so on. And then we have subband selection, where we can actually select what frequency channels do we need for the beam to be associated with it. And then we have the phase corrections and the calibrations. All these are summed, and the beam output is what goes as Ethernet packet, which we can plot to see the beamed formed data. So yeah, the bandwidth of each beam is 6.25 megahertz, and up to 48 such beams are produced for each station. And beams can either point in the same direction, all the beams, 48 beams, or it can point to the different directions in the sky. And beams can have same band, or it can have different bands. And channels are limited to 384 because it covers from 50 to 350 megahertz. So this is just the simulation of the beam forming, and the antenna arrangements were 16 arranged in east-west linear array, each being 1 meter apart. So this is a simulation for the source at the zenith, and 48 such beams, MATLAB simulation. Then we carried out mock observation. For the mock observation, first, as you can see, the channel numbers and amplitude It can be for different range of frequency. Like if you see here, the beam 0 is associated with just 8 channels, beam 1, 16 channels, the next 16 channels, and so on. So the beam can be associated with different frequency ranges. And also we can form one beam covering the whole 50 to 350 megahertz band. So, so we did a mock observation where we associated the beam with a particular region of the band or frequency range. And the second, to point it at different directions, we gave different RA and DEC, which is a different pointing. So first we simulated for 8 beams for 8 different pointings or 8 different sources, RA and DEC in the sky. So this is the results which we got for 8 beam simulation. And then we went ahead and changed the code of both at the software and the firmware to produce 48 beams. But this was on the FPGA. We had done it on as a register-based implementation. So the leftmost side is the register-based implementation, where we have the register based on for each antenna and each beam delay. So that took almost most of the resources on the FPGA. So we actually implemented what the memory-based delay processor, which is shown above, which is actually paper of LFAA tile beamformer structure. So we implemented the above, me and Kamini, Madhvi, our RRI team, to the memory-based delay processor, which will have all the beam-related delays as one memory for one antenna. So this is the right side is what we call as works in the time shade mode. And then this is currently undergoing a testing phase to produce 48 beams. So this is a major development on the beam forming side. So the conclusion and the summary. So I spoke about the pulsar search related candidate sifting, which was we explored the method of running the candidate sifting on the ARM processor for real-time pulsar search, and multiple beam forming, which was one of the key areas identified needed for the surveys, such as pulsar search. And we did firmware and software modifications to produce 48 beams for the SKA search. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Sahana, for the nice talk. Is there any questions at this time?
Thanks, Hannah. Interesting talk. It was really a clever idea to use the ARM processor in the FPGA itself. I was just wondering what are some features that it has, like can it support OpenMP, can it support like AVX instructions, such things?
It has only 4 cores and it's a very small, from what I know, the root of us will hold only some 18 GB, I think 17 to 18 GB. I've not tried various applications on it. Are you asking about APIs? And
yeah, like something like, since it has 4 cores, if it can like support OpenMP, so probably we can already do de-dispersion on FPGA and then single pulse search and the core, and then you can directly a single FPGA can be used for such things.
Okay,
so,
no, I have not tried that, but basically this ARM processor was chosen to run the sequential set of programs on it, so that even if you have to change something on it, it is like easier to change on the processor side than on the FPGA side. But yeah, we would like to explore more, like installing Docker and running few other applications there.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you say something about what kind of logic is implemented in the processor?
Right.
Shifting logic.
Yeah. It is with respect to the DMs, removal of unwanted DMs. It's the same logic which is there inside the Presto candidate sifting. So I installed Presto and ran this algorithm there. It's the same as that of Presto, removal of DVMs. And
Any further questions to Sahana? Okay, if not, let's thank our speaker again.
thank you.